It is November 12th, 2024. This is your edition of Game Over Hockey, a presentation of the Game Over Network. My name is Graham Mosman, and before we dive into today's show, which will be a little bit different than some of those we've done before, wanted to take a moment of respect and thanks for all the Canadian soldiers, for nurses, for families that were back home who many years before we got here, many of them made the ultimate sacrifice to allow us to be here to talk about our silly little sport that we so deeply love. I hope you had a chance to attend a Remembrance Day ceremony or take some time of remembrance for yourself and to give thanks for all the freedoms that we now have. And I know that particular word is very loaded at the moment, but especially on Remembrance Day and the time around Remembrance Day, it's an important one to take mind of. So, I am Graham Mosman. This show is going to be a little bit different than normal. Rather than kind of diving into a little bit more in depth on some of the kind of big stories, we're going to rapid fire hit some of the stuff that's happening right now in hockey, including a couple of very weird stats to get into. The weird, not awesome suspension that we saw from the OHL, the Hockey Hall of Fame inductions, and we're going to park a little extra time. The only really big story we're going to dive into today is going to be around the NHL Hockey and the Hockey Hall of Fame induction of one of the truly worst people that has been involved in the sport and who has actively made it worse. So, with that, we're going to try something a little bit new, and this is your new, slightly revamped version of Game on Hockey. Okay, starting with yesterday, the Dallas Stars taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Bad time to be a Pittsburgh Penguins, or a Penguin. You know, aside from all the global warming and stuff, the Pittsburgh Penguins scored one goal to Dallas's 7 in a goal yesterday. Now, what was incredible about that 7 goals from Dallas Stars, not only an amazing offensive outburst, but they ended up scoring more than the Dallas Cowboys did in the game previously. Oh boy. As per Evolving Hockey, the very worst goaltender, or one of the worst goaltender performances we have ever seen, is going to go to Alexander Georgiev of the Colorado Avalanche. Now, he has had a rough year, but one of the biggest fancy stats we talk about a lot is goals saved above expected. Now, what that basically means is that for every high danger chance, goalies are expected to let in a certain amount of goals based on their skill level. But if you're saving goals above expected, it kind of means those were the big saves that you made. We could go super deep into the Dork Forest on that one, but we're not going to because that's not this type of show. But Alexander Georgiev has a currently negative 8.96 goals saved against above expected. If he or below goals saved above expected, you know what I mean. He's bad. The goals, he is not saving any more goals than he should be, to the degree of negative 8.96. If he keeps up this pace and starts games at a similar rate, he will end the season with a negative 48.98 goals saved above expected. That is a woof, and probably a very big reason that the Colorado Avalanche haven't necessarily had the season that they've wanted so far. Those stats come to us from Evolving Hockey, thanks to GameWiz 2x3 on the Our Hockey subreddit for doing the math on that one. The London Knights have had their assistant captain, Landon Sim, suspended. Now, initially, he was suspended indefinitely by the OHL, and something like that usually only happens if you do something that can extremely harm another player or go so far beyond the league's code of conduct that it's a big enough thing. So he has been suspended officially for 5 games for, quote, violating the OHL code of conduct as a result of a remark intended to provoke an opposing player that was marginalizing in both religious and cultural grounds. Jonathan Tavel from the Hockey News has a really good breakdown of it that I encourage you to go read. But it looks like another case of a young man saying something very stupid that he absolutely should not have, that was deeply hurtful and offensive. And it sucks. This is something that keeps coming up again and again in hockey, but until we start to keep pushing the culture in a better place, unfortunately, especially at the high levels, these sort of things are going to happen. To the Hockey Hall of Fame class of 2024, we are excited to see that Shea Weber is joined in alongside Pavel Datsyuk, Jeremy Roenick, Natalie Darwitz, Chrissy Wendell in the player category, David Poyle as a builder, and Colin Campbell as well as a builder. That's gross. Would like to point out that Shea Weber still has an active contract in the National Hockey League, and Pavel Datsyuk did as well until just a couple years ago. Shea Weber's one of the greatest defensemen of all time. That trade that sent PK to Nashville and him to Montreal ultimately looks pretty good for Montreal. Still can't believe it happened, but Shea Weber, one of the greats. Now, one name we got to park some time on, Colin Campbell. This man does not deserve to be in the sport of hockey. He does not deserve to be around the sport of hockey. He has made the sport of hockey definitively worse by his time as head of NHL player safety, where you had the spinning wheel of justice, where he, in many cases, through leaked emails, had called players wimpy or idiots or other phrases regarding sexist phrases that I'm not comfortable saying here. He also asked John Scott if his kids were going to be embarrassed by him when John Scott got voted in via fan vote to the All-Star game. He has a litany of old boys club stink on him. He helped the league and helped harm players in many different ways. During the height of all the CTE worries, there was 1,000 things he could have done, and he did absolutely none of them. And even encouraged people to be more physical and to make the sport of hockey more violent. Colin Campbell is not someone that needs to be honored. Has the stink of old boys club NHL on him. But hey, he was on the Hockey Hall of Fame selection committee for like 15 years, so of course they wouldn't go in and vote in one of their friends. Colin Campbell sucks. He shouldn't be anywhere near a Hockey Hall of Fame. That'll just about wrap us up here for this edition of Game on Hockey. I am Graham Mosiman. If you want to go check in on a whole lot of game overs this evening, we have a ton across the NHL schedule. I myself will be taking an eye on the Oilers and Islanders. That game should be wrapping up around 10 o'clock Mountain. We will have a crossover episode between Game Over Toronto and Game Over Ottawa. That game should be done at about 8 o'clock Mountain. And then at about 8 o'clock Mountain as well, we should have a Game Over Winnipeg as the Jets and the Rangers do battle tomorrow. That's going to be an absolute barn burner. The Jets, still the best team in hockey, but we'll also have, this one will be a late one, probably at about 11 o'clock, a Game Over crossover between Game Over Calgary and Game Over Vancouver for the Flames and Canucks. That'll do it. Have a wonderful day. This has been Game on Hockey, a presentation of the Game Over Network.